One second, Gordon, I'm gonna ask you to call it to order one more time. Just give me a chance to get it up on YouTube here, one second.
No problem.
Okay, all set. Thank you.
Yes, I call the meeting to order. So we're gonna open up the meeting with a check-in. I can start. We would just say, honestly, I think we all know each other's names at this point. So I think we could just say like how summer has been going so far, and what do we expect to, get done today. So my summer so far it's been going by pretty fast. July is almost here. Well, literally starts tomorrow, and then the 4th is coming up. For today, I expect for us to just hone in all on the vision stuff and just start making plans for like what can we have in place before the next school year starts, whether that is like procedural items or anything of that sort. I can pass it on to Lavinia.
My summer has been going pretty good, and like Gordon said, it has been going pretty fast. I've been pretty busy too, so I haven't had a lot of time to do things for myself. But yeah, it's been going pretty well. And as for today, I think I've done most of the stuff that I want to. The only thing is this committee, and I guess I'm just excited to talk after a really long time. I'll pass it on to Mia.
Yeah, so it's been going by pretty fast this summer, honestly. It's almost July, like Gordon said. And I've been basically working nonstop at my job, so that's been pretty fun, earning that money. But yeah, as for today, I'm really excited to be here again and talk with all of you. And yeah, I'll pass it to Megan.
Yeah, my summer's been pretty busy, but I kind of like it that way, so don't really mind. So I've been working, visited some colleges. And then as for today, I think I'm really excited to kind of discuss more what we talked about last meeting, and like Gordon said, kind of moving forward with plans that we can put in place for next school year. And I will go to Mari.
Hi. Yeah, my summer has also been busy and going quickly. I have been driving my kids around more than I had anticipated. I forget how much time that all takes, but it's all good. As for the meeting today, I guess I don't have a lot of expectations. I'm a little bit sheepish about the fact that as a liaison, we really didn't connect with parents before the school year ended. And I sort of wish we'd made that happen, but we can make plans to do so in the fall and still get a lot done this summer. So I'm gonna toss it to Andre, please.
Hello, everyone. I will agree with everybody. The summer is going fast. I found myself when I say it's hot out that I close my mouth quickly, because before I know it, I'm going to be talking about how cold it is out. So enjoy those summer moments because they go by quick. And yeah, I think as others have said, just excited to kind of get into the weeds and figure out, kind of some things that we can move forward for next year. And I appreciate all of the young scholars being here today and your time off. It's summertime and you're here, and so I appreciate that from all of you. And I will turn it over to now County Board Supervisor Dana.
Hey, Andre. So my summer's busy. It's also fun. I'm getting out to a lot of concerts. I'm traveling a lot, making sure that I'm building space for myself. I'm here to, I guess, give updates from what we have and see what's happening next.
Maya, would you like to go next?
Yeah, let me turn this on real quick. I'm in 2 board meetings at the same time. Hi everyone. My summer is going well. And today I'm looking forward to putting some actions in, and I will pass it off to Dr. Hicks.
Look, I was having some trouble getting that off. My summer has not been a summer. I've been working every day. So next week I'll have a week to like just do. So I'm looking forward to that. And for today, I am looking forward to moving towards like just getting some things down and out there so we can start doing action steps and work that needs to be done. I'm going to pass it to Joanna.
Hi guys. My summer's been interesting so far, and I'm just excited to like talk about things and see what we can do for next school year. Also, would Ruben want to go?
Yeah, thanks, Joanna. Hey, everybody. Yeah, summer's been busy, but good. Beautiful outside. Always happy to be in Madison. And I'm looking forward to just kind of understanding the vision of safety and how the city and the school district can kind of work together. I think our vision of safety is clear to me, but I would like to know how the school board fits into that, especially around youth, and giving some productive time to youth over the summertime. Ananda, have you been able to go?
No, thank you so much, Ruben. This is my favorite time of the year. Actually, the only time that you see me genuinely 100% happy. And when it's like really hot outside and there's a sun and mildly sweat, it feels really great. I'm so excited to hear all the updates from our students in regards to how you're closing out this year, what are some of the things that you're doing for the summer. And I really appreciate our co-chair, Gordon Allen, because he's juggling chairing this committee and also transitioning out of Madison. So thank you all for continuing to be here. I think up to this point, we have done a lot of community building. We have created some shared language around what we're doing. We have some really good mechanisms in place around communication. I think we got in a really good cycle there. And thank you so much, Barb, because Barb is also someone to give a lot of gratitude to, because Barb is leaving but not leaving and staying in and making sure that we are organized. So really appreciating you all for, coming back and continue to move this work. So I'm excited for our conversation, which is going to be most of our time together. And I'll pass it to Jessica.
Hi. My summer's been good, lots of yard work and stuff. I'm pretty frustrated with a lot of the ways that things aren't getting done in the world, and to some extent the district too. So I'm really looking forward for us to actually get some movement going. Liz?
Thanks, Jessica. And thanks for being real. I appreciate that. My summer's been going well so far. I just returned last night from 2.5 weeks with family. So that was really, really good to spend time around some family. And I'm just looking forward to leaving this meeting knowing how I can continue to support the work. Has anyone not gone? I was going to pass it to someone, but I think we've all gone.
Yeah, I think we all went.
Okay.
So I can take the next item, Gordon. The next one is the approval of minutes. And would move to approve the minutes from the meeting dated May 12, 2022 of the Safety and Student Wellness Ad Hoc Committee.
Second.
We have a second. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye or raise your hand. Motion passed, meeting minutes approved. The next items is updates on communications, and we want to maybe start with you, Liz, on anything else that has come through the website.
I have not been made aware of any other like Let's Talk messages coming through related to the Safety Ad Hoc Committee. I've looked for them. I haven't seen any. I know you and Gordon were able to, I believe were able to look at the last update that I drafted for the website. So that's posted there now and just gives kind of like a overview update of what we talked about at the meeting in May.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Liz. Anything else, Gordon or Barb, that would be relevant for this line item?
Just the idea that may want to add to the website an opportunity for people to leave input, not just through the Let's Talk thing, but also just through a general input thing that can be put right on the website for people to just do whenever they're looking at the website. So,
and Barb, are you thinking of kind of feedback on the guiding questions?
Yes. Yes, or anything regarding the committee. It's really wide open, Liz.
Okay. Yeah, if that's something that you all would like to do, I can make that happen.
All right. Hearing no other comments, and also heard a lot of the excitement to close on this part of the work around the visioning of the safety and wellness. So let's move to that item. First of all, I wanted to say at our last meeting, and I shared this on an email, both Gordon, myself, and Barb shared, while debriefing, we highlighted how important it was to have this group to talk through. For those of you that remember, we got a chance to have a meeting shortly after one of the shootings. Now that's how it's unfortunate, that's how we're saying this. And what is really connected to the work that we're doing is around communication. So much of what we heard from young people is that they're not receiving the communication. If high schoolers are not receiving the communication, I'm pretty sure the middle schoolers and elementary students are not necessarily on the loop of what's going on, in particular around safety and wellness. So in the topic of communication, what else do we need to put, and if folks can start articulating some actions as we move to summer planning and into next school year, what are some of the things that we wanted to make sure that are in place? In particular around all the things that we have talked about as relates to safety and wellness. And Gordon, I'd love to hear from you first, and you can pass it on to other folks.
Yeah, I would say since we kind of have this time to plan anything so that for the following school year that things can ought to be set in place to be, enforced. I think it's critical that we just, take advantage of this opportunity. So what I have to say regarding communication and overall the safety is just to, perhaps we need to meet with someone who oversees all of the procedural work when it comes time to communication, especially for events such as, where there's like a firearm in the building or, et cetera. Because we did talk about the last meeting, how that is something that was in protocol, right? It gets into the district and they do something, they write up something that just like a lot of back and forth communication that slows down communication for parents and students. So is there a way we can take a look at that exact protocol. And then as a group, we could, collectively revise that. Liz, you were going to say something to that effect?
I was just going to say, I think I remember from the last meeting that there was maybe an idea that Ananda and Gordon, that you might try to connect with Dr. Jenkins to potentially, have a conversation about how that communication takes place and who is involved and kind of what the decision points are. I don't know that there's necessarily like a written, like black and white protocol per se, but I think that we could gather a group of folks together who are on like the district critical response team and who are usually involved in that process. So that's communication folks, but also others as well. And maybe include some like administrators from different levels, elementary, middle, and high, to just kind of discuss some of the challenges and maybe some of the hiccups, some successes, and talk about ways that we might be able to improve that.
Yeah, thank you so much, Liz, for the contextualizing. And Jessica, I see you. We did send an email to Dr. Jenkins urging and passing along the discussion that we had, in particular around the communication protocol to students and to parents. Shortly after this, I think Dr. Jenkins had COVID and we were back and forth a little bit. So we definitely needed to bring back, but what I think it's really important is I think we all know the problem, and we have talked about the problem. We'll lift up what that looks like, even as at the student level. So I think what would be helpful for the context of this group and also to connect into action is, what do we want to see? What is the ask that we want to see next year in regards to communication of guns, of firearms in the schools? And we can focus on the high schools, because that's, I think it's the top priority, but not exclusive to the high schools. What type of communications that students would like to see happening? And then Jessica, I'd love to hear from you too, like perspectives of staff, like what does that look like? And for folks to be specific as possible so we can take notes and we can bring this back to administration. And I'll pass it to you, Jessica.
What I would say is that it has to be more than administration. Our security staff need to be part of that conversation, and people like our deans and other response people as well. I was just at a retirement party talking about with one of our security people who was saying that they were put in a room they were asked to keep a kid in a room, and only later did they find out that the reason that the kid was to be in that room was that they were suspected to have a gun. And so the security staff did not know that they could be at risk until later, and they almost didn't come back to work the next day. So the communication and the things that I hear, people hear informally through deans who, know what is going on, and yet staff have to hear about it through the grapevine rather than through reality. We hear once in a while something, but the vast majority of things do not get told to staff, and staff feel very uncomfortable with that. It's unclear to me how much of those ideas get to students. And I'd be interested in hearing what students have to say about that. But it is alarming what happens at the high schools with lack of communication when there are indeed worries about guns, and there are guns in the building.
Joanna?
Thank you. Okay, so I'm gonna be very blunt with you all. There's no nice way to put this, but there needs to be more transparency and less excuses, because the excuses that I've heard have been the same ones over and over and over and over and over again. Parents are sick and tired of hearing these excuses. I'm sick and tired of hearing these excuses. So are students. So we need way more transparency to staff and parents of what's going on, because it doesn't make sense that staff have no idea that there's a gun inside of school. And here they are thinking that it's just a fight, just like a regular fight, and that, everything is all fine, but no, there's a firearm inside of school, and they don't know anything. And students don't know where to hide if there is a firearm in school. I don't know where I would hide if there was one inside of my classrooms, which is very alarming, because there have been like 2 firearms basically brought to La Follette in the past year. Also, like what you're just saying about like the security guy or whatever, it's like, that makes no sense. Like, he didn't know that a student is suspected to have a gun. That puts his life or her life at risk. And it's just not, I don't know, it's just not like okay, especially with parents not knowing there was a firearm in school until hours after, like a lot of hours after, and after school. It's just, I don't get it. So I would just like to see a lot more transparency and less excuses from the district.
Megan.
I 100% agree with everything that Joanna just said, but I think it's also really important that our staff get that information, because even though some students don't really listen to staff, on the day-to-day, if there was an emergency, they would be looking to the staff because they are the ones that ultimately know how to protect students. And I think it's really important that we shorten that communication time period, especially as like these incidents with firearms in schools and shootings in public facilities really start to become more and more common. I think the amount of time it's taking to communicate with staff is honestly getting to be a little dangerous, because if something did happen and those people carrying firearms in schools weren't kind of caught, there really wouldn't be a lot of control over the situation. So I really like the idea of being able to sit down with Dr. Jenkins, or looking over the process and seeing ways to shorten it without cutting corners.
Margaret, just 1 second. Miss House, I have a quick question. Do teachers receive any trainings on, like, the code red drills or etc.?
Once in a while. Once in a while, it's gone through what we need to do for code reds and all the other codes for that matter.
All right,
I'm
so-
not sure it's consistently every year, but I remember within the last couple of years that we did get some.
Okay, thank you. Dr. Hicks, were you going to say something?
I would say it's a requirement every year, the beginning of the year that happens. I have for all staff in build, so that they know aware what you're supposed to do, how you're supposed to do it. It's also done with scholars as well. I have asked though, in some areas around some things too, because we don't do them all of the time, or we don't do those procedures, it might just be once semester, trying to get training, again, we don't want to train ourselves to where we just don't respond, but just like we have monthly fire drills, we know what to do automatically. When it doesn't happen as often, then when something does happen, then we don't want it to go to panic because we're not used to it. So getting some more ongoing, often training, or maybe it's bi-monthly or something, so we're not always in this space of, we got to respond, but we also need to be able to know how to do it, when to do it, so that it is automatic, so that we can make sure that we're protecting everyone.
Mm-hmm. Can I ask a follow-up, Dr. Hicks? Because one of the things that we have talked also was mental health, which I'm hoping that we go next after this conversation. But what I have heard from a lot of parents and also school staff is the impact of the amount of drills and the type of drills that we do. So do you have like specific recommendations? And I don't know, when we get to Mari and Jessica, if there's anything else that you, as a parent and as a teacher, if you have anything else on that.
Well, when I did say that, my first thought was going back to just the NVCI training, because we don't do that very often, and that's just knowing how to protect yourself, staff, when physical things are happening with scholars, and we don't put our hands on kids and we don't grab kids all of the time and all of that. So there are times when those things are necessary, and then people don't know how to do it or have forgotten, and then things might happen. So, so from that end, yes, we can talk about either you do it more or you do it less. Where's the balance of just making sure people are aware enough to be able to respond and not just responding off of adrenaline, but responding off of clear thought, safety, and care for everybody in the situation. So
I'm sorry,
Yeah.
I was just going to add that it's the state that really mandates the type and number of drills and the frequency of drills that we do. So when it comes to fire drills or lockout, lockdown, evacuation, that sort of thing, we are guided by the Department of Justice Office of School Safety in terms of those drills, and that is on the Office of School Safety website on our website.
And they recommend the minimum that we have, like what is mandatory.
I don't think it's a recommendation. It's you have to do it. Yeah, you have to.
You have to do it, like, but a minimum. So if we want to have more, like that is not, it's okay to have more. And then I just wanted to clarify NVCR, nonviolent conflict resolution.
NVCI?
And what is
intervention?
it?
Yeah, nonviolence crisis intervention.
Crisis intervention. Thank you.
And most staff are never trained on that. That's specifically for some staff. Most staff don't get that at all, even as an option. It's, special ed students, people that do behavior response, that kind of stuff.
It should be everyone.
I've never been even offered. I know people that do it. I've never been offered, ever.
I wasn't.
I know lots of people that do, but it's never been something that has been offered to general, ed teachers.
I know there's at least an online portion on the talent portal because I was curious myself and decided to go see if I could start it, but nothing.
There has to be a physical part of it too. It's not just that.
Yeah.
Mari, sorry to keep you waiting.
Yeah, no problem. I just wanted to mention, in terms of the communication breakdowns, if I remembered and understood from our last meeting, it sounded like a big issue was the protocol that's in place and things having to go through the superintendent and the legal arm of the district. So, I mean, it seems to me that we can't change the way things are unless the protocol is changed. Maybe I misunderstood that, but can anyone else speak to that question if it's a protocol issue?
So I don't know that it's a written protocol or that everything's run by this superintendent. I can tell you for sure that it is not. I hate to say this, but it is a case by case situation. So depending on what the situation is, depending on the details, depending on which critical response staff members are available to collaborate and troubleshoot together and meet together, it could involve 3 people reviewing the communication, or it could involve 15 people reviewing it. So it is a little bit nebulous in that way.
Ms. Hutz.
I would just like to kind of second what Ananda was alluding to, or I would not want to do this too often either. These are traumatic things I have heard about. It was a day that I was absent, but an in-service day when staff were actually played audio of a school shooting that amazingly hurt people. It was not okay. The way that was done. And that was within the last 6 years. I don't remember exactly when. It's been a while. So, I mean, definitely people need to know what to do and need to be able to ask questions, not have that just presented to them, because I think that's something where I was in a staff meeting, we were getting stuff, people were asking questions and we were just told, oh, put it in the parking lot. Nobody ever gets back to those. So like just having responsive administrators who are willing to think about things like, what do we tell students to do if they're stuck in a bathroom? That kind of thing. Just so students feel comfortable, but not to, we have a lot of students whose mental health is, touchy, and a lot of staff whose mental health is touchy too. These are traumatic things. We see these in the news. It's scary as all hell. We don't want to go too far with that either. We have to be really careful how we do this.
I agree. Andre?
Yeah, I was just gonna say from my perspective, I think as a goal or aspiration would be timely, accurate, which I think is a big thing to talk about, because, and then follow up to that. We get frequently in things, because I get pulled in a lot of the things that end up happening in the schools, and frequently a lot of the information that people think they have isn't really what has happened. There's also some rights of other individuals before you know, and an investigative process for that. So that's tough when these kind of things are here, and how do you balance all of those things at the same time? But I think, you know, as soon as you can get information out that is accurate information, and then circle back on that, you know, there's, you know, without getting into it, there's some information I don't know that's come back out from the incident that's talked about with regards to the latest one at La Follette, that I don't know what has, you know, circled back. There's also frequently from law enforcement certain pieces that entities are instructed not to do or say certain things because of that investigative and legal process. So I think as soon as you can get whatever information out to as broad of a group or the necessary people with accurate information, you know, that should be what we're trying to do. And then circling back also on that as a follow-up.
Thank you. Ioana.
I just have a question. Like, this is like more like a legal question, but say admin knows that the student has a weapon inside of the school, so they put the school on lockdown. What would be the issue if they sent out to staff an email saying that a student, not specifying who, is like not specifying the name of the student, but saying a student is suspected, so not incriminating them saying they do have one, but saying is suspected to have a weapon, which is why we're on a lockdown? Like, what would be the legal problem with sending an email like that to staff?
Ioana, that's a great question. I'm not a lawyer, so I can't answer that. But I think one observation that I will make is that a lockdown is a protocol, is emergency protocol that takes place when there's, for example, an active shooter in the building. That doesn't necessarily include a student being suspected of having a weapon in a backpack, for example. And so staff receiving a tip that a student in particular might have a weapon in a backpack would not necessarily cause them to put the school on lockdown for a variety of reasons. That may or may not be hopeful, but.
Oh yeah, sorry, I used the wrong terminology. I meant like what was it, lock? I'm sorry, they never taught us this stuff for the terminology, like a hold or like a lock-in.
Sure.
Yeah, so like what would be like I don't know if you know at all, but during like a hold.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I guess I wouldn't really be able to speak to like the legal part of your question, just because I'm not a lawyer.
So here's what I'm thinking, that those are really great questions. So what I'm hoping to do, and Maya, I'll pass it to you next. Create a bit of a grid with what you all have shared with us around what is the universal communication, what is the targeted communications for students, for families, for all staff, for the security staff and the other members of the response team. I love the overarching approach of transparencies and no more excuses, the timely accuracy and follow-up communication, a balanced approach to the frequency on emergency drills, and in a place where students and staff are able to ask questions, and increase and potentially is creating an accountability strategy to see who is trained in the buildings on NVCI, and that the committee wants more information on the legal aspect of our protocol. Am I missing anything from what we have discussed? Okay.
I have a question. It's more like a procedural question. So if you were to call someone to the committee, such as, Dr. Jenkins or anyone from, I think let's say the district critical response team, how will we go about doing that so we can have them here during our committee meeting?
I can invite people, Gordon,
Okay,
and I can consult with, well, you and Ananda as the co-chairs can ask Dr. Jenkins about what staff would be appropriate.
Yeah. That's what I was going to, Gordon. Thank you for.
no problem.
And then Maya, I'll pass it to you, and then we'll pass it back to Gordon.
And I think you basically said what I was going to say about like trying to figure out a mechanism that we can take back. But you as the co-chair and Gordon as the co-chair, I think Barb answered that as well. Being able to talk to legal and things like that of like the actual procedural pieces and the legality of it. I think we just have to, in this meeting, also be, I'm gonna be transparent. Like we can ask the questions, but I don't think anyone should really answer it unless they have that background, just for accountability's sake. Just so we're also not, because these are recorded, and so that we're not giving out incorrect information as well. So thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Board Member Pearson. And I think the other piece that I would say is that, and I may have shared this before with this group, this is a group with extremely engaged adults, extremely engaged students. And if you all are asking a lot of questions, I cannot imagine what other parents, family members, other students, and other staff are also wondering around the topics that we're talking about. So thank you all. I'll pass it to you, Gordon.
Yeah, thank you all for sharing on the safety and communication part of this meeting. I think it's best that we move on to the next agenda item, which is focusing on wellness and mental health. Are there any commentary for that topic? Ruben?
Yeah, so I'm going to share the city's perspective on this. I think our solution to seeing heightened violence amongst our youth for a while, and especially in the summers, has been to really make sure that we have that social emotional support around our students and our youth. And when we saw that there was going to be several hundred students taken out of summer school for the summer, we were a little taken aback about how do we continue to do that as partners with MMSD if that's seemingly the plan moving forward. And so I was just not sure if this group had any awareness of if that's kind of what our future looks like with MMSD over summer programming. And that way we're doing a lot, we're putting $1 million+ into parks programming and things like that, but it would be great to understand more what MMSD's plan is for that social emotional support over the summer.
Thank you for bringing that, Ruben. I did get some of those questions too, and I'm following up to what Board Member Pearson mentioned. I'm wondering if either Dr. Hicks or Board Member Pearson know what was the rationale there or ways to remediate that.
That is not as like standard protocol or response. That was also in response to the number of staffing that was available. And so adjustments had to be made. Our goal is to have a robust program in which scholars are able to attend, and all families who are invited to attend are able to attend. So that is the ultimate goal. It continues to be the goal. And moving forward, we hope we have the appropriate staff and resources available needed to make sure that we can implement the program completely. And so that was the rationale why it wasn't made because we didn't want to, but we had to shift, and that's the way we needed to shift in real time.
Ms. Hotz?
The summer school thing has everything in the world to do with staff morale and staff wellness, which cannot be separated from the wellness of other people in the schools, like scholars. The fact is that staff were totally wasted after the last 2 years, and summer school pay cut. And between those two things, the motivation to actually work summer school is a large part of why the staffing was there. And that was warned about by MTI. I was at that meeting. But regardless, staff wellness has to be a part of the conversation with this, consequently, so we can have those offerings for summer school and whatnot.
Ms. Haas, I'm glad you actually brought that up because I think that's often, like you said, it's not taken into consideration. But my question would be like, how do we incorporate staff wellness? Do you suggest like we just do some type of like mental health check-ins, or how do you think we can do that?
I don't have all the answers with this. I think mental health check-ins are not going to work where you have staff that don't trust administrators. And we have a lot of schools where that's the case. Not all schools. Some schools have great relationships with the administrators and so forth in their buildings, but some do not.
Right.
So I think a lot of it has to do with simple things like autonomous planning time, like respectful professional development that doesn't demoralize staff, things along those lines. Just sort of the treatment of staff as professionals who, know what we're doing and need the time to do it as well as we want to, because we really want to do our best. But when we're cornered and put in positions where we can't, it kills us. And it also has to do with some of the aspects of all sorts of things, grading policies, which has been a huge issue for morale across the district. Follow through with behavior stuff, those things. But I would say largely just treating staff with more respect from the district would do a lot.
Thank you.
And-
Sorry.
Oh, Gordon, I was just gonna do a follow-up with a little bit more specific, because you mentioned autonomy. Do you mind just talking a little bit more about like what that looks like?
It means that the planning time that teachers are afforded can be spent doing their jobs, not doing extra meetings. So some people will call it planning time. Well, we do a lot more than plan in those times. We grade, we do data entry, we call people, we do all of these things. And there are so many, and it doesn't affect everybody the same. It's somewhat an equity issue because some people in some positions have much more of this stuff. But, up to like 5 to 6 hours a week at a high school level, when you have only 10 hours of prep a week, are in meetings that are not particularly helpful. So it diminishes the amount of time that a staff member has to breathe, to even go to the bathroom, but also just to do their jobs so that they don't have to do it after school. Because truthfully, the willingness of staff to put those extra hours in when the respect level is so low is going down. And that's not being helped by some things going on this summer.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hotz. I think that, it would be helpful to get like you some more teachers on to talk more about this stuff too. And maybe we can invite someone, from central office and also some more advocates of you all to, come up with ways that we can actually tackle this on, because we don't want to, I think we should all like think about this stuff now so that, like I said, when we go into the school year, it can already be set in place. But thank you, Ms. Hotz, for bringing that up, because, as a student, I wouldn't have known any of that. So.
And Gordon, Ms. Haas is part of the liaison for the staff, and I'm sure her along with Michael can coordinate a meeting where we discuss mostly that, but just be really action oriented, so we can lift up y'all's voice. So we can hold a special meeting with whoever from this committee would want to attend, and members of MTI and whoever other staff member that would like to attend.
Definitely, we could do that.
Sounds good. Thank you. Dana?
So I wanted to just answer the question about what it is that we're hearing for mental health. So one of the things that I actually read in the paper was that the new budget has a bunch of mental health supports. But as a parent and as a community partner that works with MMSD, I don't know what that plan is. Do we have a comprehensive plan? What does it look like? It feels very much like everything is very siloed and people aren't talking to each other. And so one of the things I would like to see progress is that elevated communication to say, okay, great. We have this mental health plan. Well, what is it? Because I know it can't be relying on the staff that's in student services because they are understaffed. And we saw a lot of that and the consequences of that last year. So the things that I am hearing from community partners is that we all don't know who's working there and what it is that we're doing. We don't see a coordinated plan for student wellness or staff wellness. Or if there is one, because I'm not even assuming that there isn't one. I mean, these are highly skilled people. It's really just a matter of, can we communicate these things out to us? And I think that some of that is getting lost. And I will speak as somebody that is very busy, and I know it's hard to communicate. There needs to be a flow to be able to communicate to staff, to parents, to community partners who are in doing this work. What is this plan? So that we can also see what are the gaps. What do I, as a parent, need to think about this next year, knowing that there may be gaps for my son who has an IEP and does need mental health supports. I would need to be able to know those things as a parent, and knowing that before the school year comes in so that I can do my diligence to make sure that he has the best experience would be very helpful.
Thank you so much, Dana. What I would say is that what you're saying is an intersection to the other item around communication, which we keep hearing, right? So much of what we're talking about is that we don't know if it exists or not, and what, yes, if it's happening or how it's happening. We know that everybody cares about, everybody talks about, the value is there, but the communication it's lagging. So I appreciate you lifting that up.
Yes, thank you, Dana. Maya.
Hey, I just wanted to ask, Ruben, can you restate your question? Because I was responding to that directly.
Yeah, I was just curious if what the plan is moving forward about giving students support around summer school, because the city has been trying to collaborate with MMSD for a long time, and we also found out about the 700 students in the paper. So I think it's a simultaneous communication and a social emotional support question moving forward.
Okay, so I'll speak one as a board member. I am in agreement with what Dr. Hitz has shared. The decision was made due to staffing shortages, so that is actually the reason. When it comes down to like the personal reasons of why those staff chose not to stay on, I won't speak on that, but we've heard some comments about that in this meeting. As far as like me as a community member, the way I look at it is everything has to happen in tangent, right? In tandem with each other. And so the city looking at the district around that issue, I think in waiting for the district to make those decisions, me as a community member right now, this is not me as a board member. I'm going to make that very, very clear. As a community member with children who are middle school aged, who don't attend summer school, still don't have many options for them to do to do things in this city that offers them a space that is safe, that offers them a space that they can with the social emotional issues that are going on with everyone in this country right now, they don't have really anything other than probably Goodman Pool, which then I had to pay for all my children. So, and I'm a single parent of like 3 kids. So I will say that just off the bat, I think that looking at us to like, okay, what is happening with the students that were not able to stay in summer school is one thing, but I also think it's another thing of the mayor and the city having and putting investments in community centers, putting investments in other activities that allow students to have access, even if they're not in summer school, because that to offer summer school for every single child in the city of Madison is very difficult, right? We know that, like, regardless if we had all the teachers in the world and they were all happy and everything, like, it's just, it's not as simple as we kind of think of it. But I think working together and ensuring that, okay, as a teenager, I had we had the skating rink, we had the teen spot, hangout spot with music. There were so many other robust activities that we could participate in. And I just, it frustrates me a little because it's like, well, what are we going to do? Like, we're kind of like looking at y'all, and we saw it in the newspaper. My whole thing is like, this should be an ongoing thing, that even if summer school was happening for our youth, they still would have the access to have other programming outside of just summer school and enjoy themselves for the summer in a safe place where they feel like, they have the mental supports as well. I won't say that, it absolves any of, the communication pieces that we've been talking about today. I won't say that it absolves any of, like the feelings of staff and teachers, but I just think that these things have to happen in tandem, and it can't just be, well, we're going to wait and look for what the district is doing. So what are you guys doing? So then we can jump on and we can support. I think it's just like, you just have to support, right? And I'm choosing my words carefully just because I'm a little frustrated, especially as a mother of middle schoolers, because they don't have, like, what is there for them to do? Literally, but walk the street and maybe go to the pool. If I have the resources to send them to a camp, I would have, but I don't, right? And so I just, I'll get off that, but I just wanted to state that, like, I understand the question. I think we are working on it. Dr. Hicks, you can correct me if I'm wrong. From what I know, we were able to place more students into summer school based off of, teachers coming in, and unfortunately, it's what happened, and we just have to figure a way through. But also that it's not just only on us as the primary, I guess, caregiver for our youth, right? Education, but it's really essentially every single, entity, government entity, community entity to be able to support in ways that it's not just only waiting for us. So I'm just gonna put that out there and just say that, because I do think the wellness piece is important, and I don't want to take up more time. So thank you for calling me.
Now, can I say something? Thank you so much for lifting up. One thing that is coming for me really clear, what you're saying, is that for so long, I lived in the city and saw representatives that had no idea what it was like to be a single parent in the city, or to be a single parent of color in the city. And having your voice on the board I'm so honored to have served with you and to continue to support you, because I think that most people that are out there, putting their voice on things are not speaking to the complexities of summer for young people. And if we do have consensus that summer programming, I'm not talking about summer school necessarily, but summer programming, which I think the city, the school district, I think that it's a non-contentious, argument that summer programming is a proactive strategy to promote wellness, to promote mental health, to promote belonging, and to address, and I'm looking at you, Andrea, because this is a conversation we had for gazillions of years, to address violence, right? To reduce, but it's one of those most sustainable strategies to continue to connect with youth and making sure that the numbers at detention centers are low. And if we are in agreement with that, and in the time that we have received the most amount of money at the state level, and I'm not talking about the school district specifically because I know really well that budget, I'm talking about the state have so much funding, and we were not able to be prepared both as a city and as a school district is very disappointing. Right. And I do think, to your point, Ruben, it's not, and to what board member Pearson just said, it's not only a school district issue. It needs to be Andrea's issues. It needs to be, the city issue. Everyone needs to be a part of it. The last thing I would say is that there is a city board and county committee called Joint Education Committee, and Tarek Sukoff and Mary O'Donnell, who both have a lot of youth background, both serve on that committee from the city perspective. And I think board member Pearson and board member Nichols are also serving that. And that has been an issue that has come up in that committee very, very often. What I would hope to see moving forward is like, what is the alignment on solutions? So we are not here in the middle of summer and it's like the ship has sailed because we're like, it's too late for anything. And now we're just bracing ourselves to not have a bad summer over nothing, really bad happen, which is for youth workers. That's most of what we do every summer. We like just hope that nothing really terrific happened to our young people or in a community. And I'll pass it to you, Ruben.
Yeah, thanks. And I think we're on the same page. And I just want to be really clear. The city has always been working through partners. So Centro Hispano, Mentoring Positives, Commonwealth Development, Baby Foundation, Mellowhood, Urban League, Boys and Girls Club, Operation Fresh Start are running 1,000 opportunities for youth 14 to 21. We put ARPA dollars behind Dear Diary, Seeing is Believing, Transforming and Reaching Our Youth for programs this summer. There's also Parks Alive all summer. So it's never going to be branded as the city is doing a project. We're always working through partners. Maybe that's a communication breakdown and people not understanding how the city puts dollars out there for summer programming. But I think we're completely saying the same thing. And maybe that's something that is not getting down from administration to the board or any other parts of the school district to understand how we're trying to support these things over the summer.
Yeah, board member Pearson. Thank you.
No, thank you, Ruben, for saying that. I'm pretty intimate with the investments that the city has done in some of these organizations. And, as a person who is in a lot of spaces at the same time, including right now, as we are in this meeting, I'm on the Civilian Police Oversight Board meeting at the same time. So, I'm intimately understanding the city, but I think for me it's this. In South Madison, we have no community center, none. We haven't had a community center since I was 10. I'm now 34, okay? And community centers are funded by the city, right? We contract to some of these organizations and we give the money to some of the organizations, but, and I won't speak on what they do and don't do, but what I will say is that it's apparent that funding a few organizations, it still is it doesn't encompass the fact that we still have a large population of youth that aren't being served, right? And so when I ask more specifically, city, and this is me speaking as a community member, right? When I asked specifically, are we able to get a community center in South Madison, right? We just had shootings last night. Are we able to get a community center that our youth can be? My kids were outside when this happened, right? Can we have a space where they can be safe, right? And have fun? And the answer is always, it's too expensive to withstand a community center, okay? And so for me, it's yes, I hear you, Ruben. Yes, I agree with you. I see the investments. I work with a lot of these organizations that you're funding from the city level. And yes, I think it is a communication issue because obviously I'm in it, so I see it and I know it, but not everybody might not know, right? However, I do think there are greater levels that go deeper than just MMSD. It goes deeper than just only, the city, like Ananda mentioned, funding from the state, right? The state has the money to be able to give, right? It's being strategic of how we actually utilize those funds and how we invest them, and who is at the table when we are making the investments. Is it the person who is loudest and can say, okay, I can get this money, I'm good at fundraising? Or is it really the people who are on the ground doing the actual work and actually serving the youth and the students in a way that they want to be served, right? I think that it's really easy to kind of give money to organizations that historically have always been there, but what about some of the ones that maybe are youth-led? What about the ones that are actually, engaging youth in a very different manner, or as I mentioned, how they want to? So I think that it goes deeper. I think it's a multifaceted, and again, I don't want to take up too much space, but thank you for lifting what the city has been invested. But I do think the city can go further. I do think the state obviously can go further. And, for me as a parent, I'm committed to it. As a board member for the school district, I'm also committed to ensuring that somehow we are getting these babies the things that they need to feel like they can be successful. And so maybe that's a larger conversation that the city can have of like, what other investments can they ensure, like getting South Madison a neighborhood center, right? That they can utilize. So, but thank you for uplifting that, Ruben. I appreciate that.
Thank you, Maya. Dr. Hicks.
Oh, I could actually take my hand down now because Maya alluded to many of the things that I was going to talk about. So I will come off. Mike, but I'm centering this to everyone who can, and Ruben from the city, that we also need to be making sure, and this was where I was really going, that the programs that you are supporting are also working with the youth in a way to identify what it is that they need. Because there are a lot of programs that are offered, and if they don't have individuals that are necessarily pointing to them to those programs or advocating for them to be in those programs, there is a huge part of our city youth who are not engaged and involved. And so we need to do a better job as a city and as a community and a village to make sure that we are wrapping our arms around all of our young people and not just those who we can get to come in because we just tap them. We have to be much more assertive and intentional around building up our community, because they are our community.
Thank you, Dr. Hicks. This is an interest of time. I think it's best that we wrap up this conversation and move on to the next agenda item. Ananda, would you like to take the lead on that? I believe it's liaison updates from the stakeholder groups.
Yeah, and Gordon, I just want to let folks know that Gordon and I are taking notes of what is the action parts of this conversation, and we should be able to send a reflection of that to you all through Barb, and then make sure that we move this directly to Board President Muldrow and Dr. Jenkins. So thank you so much, Gordon. And yes, the next item is, I will say this item along with the communications update are concurrent items in our agenda. So we're going to continue to stitch them back. And I already put some notes here too for us to do some follow-up and potentially bring Dr. Jenkins and someone from legal counsel for us to get a little bit more clarification. Okay, so to the next item, updates from stakeholder group liaisons. Dana, you sent us an email last week, eager to share some updates, but I don't see your camera on, so I'm not sure if you'd be able to kick us off.
Dana is not present in the meeting.
Oh, goodness, that's too bad. I'll try to send her a message. Anyone else would like to add anything around a stakeholder group conversations? I think we had got some actions for the staff. Mari, what does it look like for in your end?
Yeah, I spoke with Maddie, I think shortly before Memorial Day, and we talked about checking in with principals and PTOs at schools of all levels, and didn't do it before the end of the school year. And I mean, to be honest, I'm not sure it would be all that fruitful right now. So I unfortunately don't have much productive to report. It is definitely something we want to do. And, you know, maybe I'm not around the schools as much as a lot of you. And if people think that principals and PTO presidents would be responsive in the summer, then I'm more than happy to give it a shot. If anyone has an opinion or recommendation on that, I would love it.
Yeah, I think for some staff, the summer is a time that there's less things on fire, I would say. Not that there isn't all the time. But I think for PTO presidents, I mean, this might be a time where they are planning what to do for next school year.
Okay.
But I'm wondering, Dr. Hicks, if you have any recommendations on the outreach to principals and building leaders of the summer. What does that look like?
Well, I know like for the month of July, no huge meetings have been scheduled so that they can have vacation so that we can start our year off. But reaching out to them, sending them some information just to invite them to something is still doable. So their emails still work, but it might be spotty in spaces.
Well, and to be honest, it's probably a good time for, like, it's going to take some time for me to just call all the information together, and that I can do regardless of who's on vacation. So I can put that on my to-do list for the month of July, just, you know, because it's going to be a non-trivial list of contacts. So I can get a good start on that. Thank you for
I think
both.
Mari, yeah,
Mhm.
no, I think the other place is parent-led organizations like Maddie's. They are doing grassroots parent organizing. So the East Side Mamas, La Follette has a pretty strong parent group. And I can't, who is the MMSD family engagement director? Barb or Dr. Hicks, do you can you remind me who is that? Or Liz, you know?
Carolyn Stanford Taylor, Department of Equity,
Yeah,
Diversity and Inclusion.
yeah, maybe talk to Carolyn and see who in her department is holding that. But when Nichelle Nichols was in that role, there were coordinators that were, you know, that their work was to have communications with like a comprehensive list of parent groups. So maybe Mari, you and Maddie would hold some sessions or a session where you invite folks or create some sort of survey that you can get, you know, some of the input from the many organizations.
Can you repeat the name of the position that you thought that was in the district?
Yeah, so Carolyn Stanford Taylor, she is the executive director for.
She's the associate superintendent.
Associate superintendent.
No, yeah.
Stanford, it is.
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much.
And if you email Barb, she can connect to you with Carolyn. Is that okay, Barb?
Yeah, I was just gonna suggest that. Thank you.
And it's my error. She's not the associate superintendent. She's the assistant.
We're gonna get her title right. To me, she was the state superintendent, so I would never get it right. Yeah, thank you. Julian, is Julian still here?
Yes, I'm still here.
Hi, Julian. Do you have any updates or thoughts on outreach and communications with stakeholders?
I was just thinking about something, but I want to connect with you offline. I was really just observing and listening a lot. My thing is, in terms of school and safety and things, I have a very controversial standpoint on it. That really wasn't today's discussion. But in terms of outreach, I'm having a personal event on the south side of Madison this summer, where I have vendors and other things, and there's a lot of people from the community who attends, and I would, I just want to connect with you offline and see if there's any type of collaboration we can have where there's like a booth or something set up where we can reach the community and use that as an outreach event. But that's something that the group doesn't have to, give people their evening back, and we can talk about that offline.
Absolutely. And Julian, what's the date so people have it on their calendar?
August 13th at Penn Park from 12 noon to 6 p.m.
Okay. And then if you have flyers or any communication, feel free to send it to Barb, and Barb can distribute to everyone.
Sounds good.
And I'll pass it to you, Gordon.
I would just say, I know Julian mentioned something, how he has controversial, takes on things. But I think just for everyone, it's best that we still share what we think, because that's the whole point of the committee. So even if you think something you may, as long as it's still appropriate, but even if you think it's maybe a little bit controversial, I personally would still like to hear your opinion on it. I mean your take on the whole thing. And that's just for everybody too. Ananda, are we still on with this agenda item, or are we going to move to next steps? Moving on to next steps.
Yeah.
Okay. I just, from what I gather from the notes, I think some action items will be, well, before I say my action items, I would just say, like, when these meetings, it seems like it's a little bit all over the place where we talk about certain topics, and I'm gonna be honest, we can't do a lot of things that we say in this committee. I mean, that's going to take a lot longer time, and we don't have that. So I think what is important is that we do narrow down some things that we think we must need going into the following school year. I think that we truly believe are doable in this given time as well. So now going into my action items, I would just say what we should do is get the communication stuff out of the way with Dr. Jenkins and those from the critical response team, and look into what that will entail, how can we do so, and includes Ms. Haas and Samantha Hui, as well as Mr. Jones, to discuss further how staff would like to see that communication be enhanced between them and the district. And also to draft a recommendation to have clear protocol on how communication take place. Because the fact that there isn't something black and white on how it should be done is the reason why everything is organized now. And then I think aside from the communication piece, for the safety part, I would like to have a discussion with the deans and the security staff about the reflection of last school year, like what like to see done differently going into the next one. Okay, it was a pretty hectic school year, and I think there was a great learning experience for them and for all of us as well. And then from that, we can make a recommendation on what could be in place if it is possible to do that. And then for the mental health piece, actually working with Ms. Haas and Mr. Jones to get more staff input on how they would like to see their wellness be incorporated into mental health policies. And then to start having that, Dana made a good point how there isn't I think he said something about a solid coordination plan for student wellness. So maybe we need to talk to Ms. Stanford about, or whoever, it's student service, mental health, there's so many titles all over the place, whoever it is, to come up with a coordination plan for student wellness. So there's only 4 action items. 2 for safety would be communication and having a discussion with the people on the ground, so I should do a lot of the safety work too. And then for mental health, it would be focused on both staff and student wellness. And that's all that I have for my action items. Anna, what do you have?
Thank you so much, Gordon, for summarizing them. I appreciate us narrow down to very specific lists that we can bring up also to the board around our crisis response protocol. I'm right now drafting an email to Dr. Jenkins, letting him know the interest of this group and potentially asking him and another staff member to come to the group to answer specific questions. And then the mental health approach. And I really appreciate Ms. Haas, speaking directly to the staff wellness, which I think is the unintended consequences that we end up experiencing, right? So I appreciate that. I'm really, I get really disturbed when I hear that educators are constantly burned out and still not receiving the support. And also, the state of our society right now in regards to what are we investing, what is our investing are going towards. So I'm looking forward to working with you, Ms. Haas, and following up on that. And then some follow up with Rebecca Ramirez, who's a member of this group, around the mental health plan. A lift up in our communication around making sure that we have a culturally responsive summer programming. So I don't know if that means that the district is going to come up with a group, a committee, or make sure that is, it's on a front center as we're planning up for 2023 summer. And and making sure that we're connecting Mari and Maddie with the parent organizations in town. I think we got a lot tonight, y'all. Thank you so much.
And how does everyone feel about the action items? Okay, good. Well, we have 4 minutes left. Ananda, does anyone
just to let Oh, I was just gonna say to let folks know that it should be on your calendars, the every 2 weeks meetings all through July. And one of the meetings in July, we should dedicate to talk a little bit about how, if we wanted to take a break in August. And also Gordon and I are gonna have some conversations about how we're recruiting more students. And there are also a set of students alternates, meaning students that were interested in being part of the group, but didn't make it to this roster. So potentially having them on board into this group. And then would love to hear recommendations for the students who are in their last year of high school. What would you like for us to do moving forward in regards to your succession, and also recommendations of other colleagues of yours for this group? Andre?
Yeah, just because I know I'm not going to be at the next meeting, and so I don't know if you guys will be talking about it then, of as soon as we can, for knowing schedules going forward beyond July, because we altered the schedule for July, so it's off a week, and so for those of us that have booked in, it's going to get much more difficult to add things back in at a later point. So the sooner the better on what that schedule will be, August and beyond. Or else, I know for people like me, you may miss several people that won't be able to make it. So I won't be here at the next meeting to be able to talk about that if that's discussed as the schedule, but whatever that schedule is, as soon as possible.
Well, let me ask you this then. It would be too much, and I'll ask to you, Barb, first, for us to schedule a meeting for next Thursday, and then 2 weeks on after next Thursday.
So you're talking about July 7 versus the 14th?
Yes.
And that's good for me. If you're doing that for me, that's not going to work for me.
Oh, it won't.
Thursday either. Yeah, that's just I had the others blocked off on our original piece. So and then when those cleared, I cleared other things that
okay.
So,
Okay.
so
Got
just I don't want to
Isn't
make it
it-
about me, but I think some of us are in a variety of other things that if
I
they're not
understand.
blocked off, they'll be taken up by other meetings.
So the dates I have right now are July 14 and July 28.
Yeah, thank you. I was trying to address a problem that was not going to work out, so. And noted, we needed to get this things on the schedule for September right away. And that's it for me. Gordon, I'll pass it to you.
I think that's all for me as well. Does anyone else have something to add before we adjourn?
Just need a motion to adjourn.
All right, I'll move to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye or raise your hand.
Aye.
Carries. Thank you so much. And I'll see you all on the 14th. Bye, everyone. Bye, Barb. Thank you so much.
Bye,
We'll talk
everyone.
soon.
Thank you.